Now, if you talk about the god of the underworld in Greece, you probably immediately think of Hades, right? He's their most famous god, but what if I told you there are others? And actually, they're the ones who do most of the work, while Hades would hardly do anything. Lazy? Come with me. Today I'll tell you about all the underworld gods in Greek mythology. Let's go. If you watched my video on the 4 races of Greek gods, linked in the card and description, you may have noticed this if you paid close attention. Although I mentioned Hades as Zeus's brother in the video, I said he's not an Olympian god because he doesn't live on Olympus. But he isn't a Titan, Primordial, or Daimon. So what is Hades and where does he fit? Well, our dear Hades. He belongs to a specific class of Greek gods called the Chthonic gods, which roughly translated means the gods of the earth. Even the gods of agriculture are included, but I'll leave those aside for now. I almost forgot to tell you that there are some daemonies there, or even demons, right? They pull the feet of people who don't like the video and don't subscribe to the channel. So if you don't want to get that visit, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, share the video, and hype it up too. And if you want to learn more about Greek mythology, take a look at the pinned comment that I'll leave there. As I've mentioned a few times here on the channel, when you die in Greek mythology, your soul can be reaped by certain beings, depending on the way you die. If you die peacefully, sleeping, or from illness, you would be received by Thanatos, but if you died violently, by the Charis. These two are also called Chthonic gods, even though they're daemons, since they dwell in the underworld. After that, your soul would be handed over to Hermes, who is also considered a Chthonic god, since he would take your soul to the banks of the river Styx, which is also a goddess Styx. She was the goddess of the river Styx, among the oldest and darkest in Greek mythology. Regarded as the eldest Oceanid, daughter of the ocean, she also personified hatred itself, and she was far from being just an ordinary river goddess. She was also directly associated with the underworld and the forces that dwelled within it. During the war between gods and titans, Styx was far from neutral. She sided with Zeus. Decisively, she brought all her children, Nike, Victory, Zelos, Rivalry, Bia, Force, and Kratos, Share, all of them to fight for the new Sky Lord. And in gratitude for her loyalty, Zeus made Styx a sacred river of divine oaths. And from then on, any god who broke an oath made upon its waters would face severe consequences. Like the river itself, Styx was more than symbolic. It was said to flow through Arcadia's mountains and come directly from the underworld. With waters so corrosive they destroyed anything, it was more than a river, it was a boundary, a warning, a constant threat to gods who dared lie. Styx was linked to other mysterious, powerful chthonic figures, such as Demeter, Erinyes, a dark counterpart to the harvest goddess, the Eumenides, the protectors of oaths, and even Nyx, the powerful goddess of primordial night. She represented the most essential dark side of divine order, the one that ensures promises are kept, even if it is through fear. Continuing on your daily journey, if you had been left with coins when you died, you could board Charon's boat and he would take you to the gates of Hades, the underworld. Cerberus would be waiting for you. And, contrary to what you might think, Cerberus wouldn't be looking angry. In fact, he might even have a cute expression on his face. But on its own, Cerberus means demon of death and darkness, the guardian of the gates of Hades. He didn't stop anyone from entering, but rather kept anyone from leaving. As punishment, Cerberus would eat the body of the condemned. And when Pirithous tried to seduce Persephone, the wife of Hades, he was handed over to the dog. Some say only Heracles, Orpheus, Aeneas, and Psyche got past Cerberus and left the underworld unharmed. Cerberus was shown as a 3-headed dog with a serpent's tail, mane of snakes, and lion's claws. Some accounts say he had 50 heads, although that count might include snakes as well. Passing through this gate, your soul would finally be judged. You would be judged not by Hades, but by the 3 judges, Rhadamanthus, Minos, and Iacchus, the 3 judges of the dead, demigod ministers serving Hades. Originally, they were mortal men, sons of the god Zeus, who received their position in death as a reward for establishing law and order on earth. Individually, they were Aeacos, who was the guardian of the keys of Hades and the judge of the men of Europe, Rhadamanthys, the lord of Elysium and judge of the men of Asia, and Minos, the judge of the third and final vote. Some say there was even a fourth judge, Triptolemus, who presided over the souls of the mystery initiates. Here is the passage that mentions two of the ministers. Europa bore sons to Zeus, the mighty son of Cronos, who became renowned leaders of wealthy men. Minos the ruler, just Rhadamanthys, noble Sarpedon, and strong, irreproachable Biam. Meanwhile, these three judges were watched over by Hades. If any problem arose, he would interfere in the judgment and end up casting an extra vote there, and so on. And Persephone would also take part if necessary. And, speaking of them, Hades was the king of the underworld and the god of the dead. He led funeral rites and upheld the dead's right to proper burial. Hades was also the god of the riches hidden in the earth and was thus known as Pluto. From the fertile soil that nourished seeds to the wealth extracted from gold, silver, and other metals. Persephone was the goddess, queen of the underworld, and Hades' wife. She was also a goddess of spring and worshipped together with her mother Demeter in the Eleusinian mysteries. This cult, based on agriculture, promised its initiates passage to a blessed afterlife. Persephone, also known as Kore, was a goddess of generosity in spring. And once, while playing in a flowery meadow with her nymph companions, Kore ended up being captured by Hades and taken to the underworld. As his bride, her mother Demeter was devastated by her disappearance and searched for her all over the world, accompanied by the goddess Hecate carrying torches. So, it was decided that, at a certain time of the year, Persephone would remain in the underworld with Hades, which would be winter, and when Persephone returned to her mother, it would be spring. After judgment, your soul could face three fates: Tartarus if you were wicked, or another if you were average, if you harmed but didn't enjoy it. You would go to the Asphodel fields, and if you were good, you would go to the Elysian fields, which, according to some versions, were cared for by Cronos. Well, these would be the beings you would be most likely to see on your journey through the underworld, but there are many more. Erebos and Nyx, two primordial beings, also lived in the underworld. The underworld was very dark, so it's easy to think darkness and night remained there. Erebos was actually one of the names for the underworld. In addition to Hades, Acheron, the god of the underworld river of pain, whose winding course marked Hades' borders, was also present. Amphiarael was a hero of the War of the Seven against Thebes, who was swallowed by the earth and transformed into an oracular demigod, an undaimoni. And his oracle in Oropos in Boeotia was one of the most revered in ancient Greece. Shonama means to pray around. Little is known about Amphiarael's mortal life, okay? Is more known about him after he actually died? The Arai were female spirits of curses summoned from the underworld, and they were pretty much the same as the Erinyes. The Calaphos were underworld undaimoni and a fruit grower for Hades. When he told Demeter that Persephone ate a pomegranate in the underworld, Demeter became so angry, she buried him under a rock. Heracles later freed him from that prison, but the goddess turned him into a screech owl, which became the sacred bird for underworld gods and a sign of bad omens. Cacodemons were evil spirits that came out of the underworld to harm people. Kostitos was the river god of tears and lamentations in the underworld. Hypnos, the god of sleep, also resided in Hades. The Empusas, or Lamias, were terrible daemons who took the form of beautiful women to lure young men to their beds and feed on them. Behind all this, the creatures were truly demonic. The Lamia had a serpent's tail instead of legs, while the Empusa had flaming hair and two uneven legs, one of bronze and the other of donkey. Some writers say that the Lamias were like ghosts and used illusion to seduce young men. They accompanied the goddess Hecate into the underworld's depths. Hecate was the goddess of magic, witchcraft, the night, the moon, ghosts, and necromancy. She was the sole daughter of Titans Perseus and Asteria, inheriting power over the sky to the river Oceanus. and she helped Demeter when she was searching for Persephone, guiding her through the night using her torches. After reuniting, Hecate became Persephone's minister and companion. In Hades, the Erinyes were three goddesses of vengeance who punished men for crimes against the natural order. They were especially concerned with homicides, misconduct, offenses against the gods, and perjury. A victim seeking justice could call the Erinyes curse on the criminal. The strongest was the curse parents placed on their children, for the Erinyes were born precisely from this crime, being generated from the blood of Erinyes, who was castrated by his son, Kronos. The wrath of the Erinyes appeared in many forms, but was even stronger when a child killed their parent. These murderers might have diseases or illnesses. Even a country that sheltered the criminal could suffer from famine or disease. The fury of the Erinyes could only be stopped through a ritual of purification or completion. The goddesses also served Hades and Persephone in the underworld, overseeing the torture of criminals in the dungeons of the damned. The lamps were torch-bearing nymphs of the underworld who accompanied the goddess Hecate. During her feasts and night hauntings, they mirrored the Eleusinian celebrants who carried torches in Demeter's nighttime mystery processions. Lucia, a Chthonic nymph, was taken to Elysium by Hades and turned into a white poplar tree. Her story was likely linked to the white poplars growing along the Acheron River in Thesprotia, known for its necromantic oracle of Hades. Lucia was probably the same as Leucippe, a Scian nymph. Once a companion of Persephone in the Homeric hymns, Macaria became the goddess of blessed death and served her father. Hades was perhaps a more merciful counterpart to the god of death Thanatos, or else connected to the passage of souls to the Isles of the Blessed. Amalinoa was a terrifying goddess of the underworld, who presided over the offerings made to the ghosts of the dead. At night, she roamed the earth with her ghostly entourage, terrifying men. Her limbs were black on one side and white on the other, reflecting her chthonic and celestial duality. Amalinoa means dark or propitiatory-minded, from Greek, melos, black, melia, propitiation, and nous, mind. The word melia was often used to describe propitiatory offerings made to the spirits of the dead. It was likely an Orphic title for Hecate, who led ghosts and was sometimes called Persephone's daughter. Enoetes was an underworld demon who herded Hades' black-skinned cattle and was attacked by Heracles, who broke his ribs. Mint, an underworld nymph loved by Hades, was transformed by Persephone. These remains were transformed into a mint plant by Hades. Oneiroi were the daemons of dreams, emerging from two gates. Those passing through the gate of horn brought false dreams, while those from the gate of ivory were messengers of truth. And the Moirae, the goddesses of fate in certain passages, are also servants of Hades. Tartarus itself was also in the underworld. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and leave a comment as well. Are there any races of gods you want me to talk about here? All right, thanks. See you. Bye.